Apprends-moi l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue. Et cela ne prend que 15 minutes par jour.
When you want to really learn another language, it starts with Babbel. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. Just go to babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's babbel.com.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
This is Tucker Silva with the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about how Medicaid irrevocable trusts operate. Todd, many people are afraid that if they transfer money to an irrevocable trust, they will be giving up control of their assets and will have to ask their trustee for permission to spend their own money. Now, is this a valid concern?
No, it's really not. And folks, when you think about irrevocable trust, please remember that there are many different kinds of irrevocable trust. There are some that require a loss of control, rigidity, inflexibility. However, the trust we're talking about when you're protecting assets from a nursing home allow the donor to remove and replace the trustee, allow the donor to have really an unbelievable amount of control over the assets that are in the trust. They can live in their house, they can manage and invest their own money, they can sell a house, they can buy a new house. When the money's invested, they can have the income come directly to them. Folks, the control you keep over your assets in an irrevocable trust is really something you must try to learn about. And that's why we're giving you away a guide today to help you understand these trusts.
Request this brand new guide from the folks at Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. It's called Unlocking the Power of Medicaid Irrevocable Trusts. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and find out if they can help yours too. 866-848-5699, or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Register now at dav5k.boston.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer. with free services provided online and in person with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Call off the recession, Michael.
I was going to say it's over and we're never going to have one again, right?
Call off the recession. It's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and today's show is titled, Why You Shouldn't Make Decisions Based on Single Data Points, Whether Bullish or Bearish. To everyone on Monday, including none other than Jeremy Siegel, who called for the Fed to cut interest rates by 0.75%
in between meetings
this week. Gosh, I'm just not sure what to say on that side. And then to other people who might look at the data this morning, and we'll talk about what we saw because, again, it's just one data point, and say, hey, like, everything's fine. Like, don't worry about it. Let's all pump the brakes. Like, we get all too hyped up about, one little thing. And this is like if you're playing baseball and you get a hit in the first at bat of the season and you're like, oh, I'm the best hitter ever. Like, no, you got one hit. So let's take it at bat by at bat. Let's take it game by game. And we'll see if we can make the playoffs when we come to October.
Let's also not read too much into what early trading means in markets. So can we talk a bit about what happened yesterday? Because I believe the S&P was up. Was it 1.7% or 0.7% at
1.7.
So up by 1 point at 1.7% for the day before finishing down for the day.
About 0.75%.
Pretty big swing.
The technical term for that is a puke.
I was going to call it a Charlie Brown.
A puke.
Yeah.
It's a puke. You can also use a vomit. There are other more graphic terms that you can use, but we won't use this because this is a family show after all.
No families listening to this show.
Lots of kids listen to our show. Lots of kids listen to our show, usually as punishment. But in any case, here is what we saw today. We've got a lot to chat about in terms of why you shouldn't do stupid stuff. But let's talk about what we saw today. This morning, we got weekly jobless claims data. We get these every single week. So
these are the filings for unemployment across all the states in the United States.
Correct.
They compile them all.
It's done at a state level, so it's not the federal government, sitting here and making up the numbers. It's literally, hey, in Massachusetts last week...
It's the state government making up the numbers.
Yeah, try getting 50 states to cooperate on making up numbers.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Can't even cooperate on whether or not you can sell marijuana from state to state, let alone how many people filed for unemployment.
Correct.
So, in any case... Massachusetts last week had 6,272 jobless claims. Maine had 394. New Hampshire
total?
had 356. Yeah, total.
Yeah, those are small states.
How many people do you think are applying for unemployment?
In Maine, I thought maybe in a single week it would be more than 400, but I was wrong.
The lowest number that I'm seeing here actually for the week is the Virgin Islands, not a state, it's a territory. Do we want to do states or territories?
If they count towards unemployment, then let's include the territories.
27 people in the Virgin Islands applied for unemployment. In South Dakota, you had 132. Continuing just throughout New England, where are some of these other New England states? Connecticut, 3,360. Rhode Island, 913.
Were you looking at the K's there? Is that why you were confused?
I thought Connecticut was with a K. And I always forget that in Rhode Island, the H is silent, but I was looking for it in the H's, and it was very confusing to me. And then, let's see, who else do we have? Is that all of them? No, we got Vermont all the way down near the bottom here. Vermont's got 282.
Okay.
If you're one of our new listeners who's listening out in on the West Coast, okay, in Portland, Oregon, Oregon, just as an example, 3,639 jobless claims there. So all of the states report this into the Department of Labor, who then, the one thing that the Department of Labor does do is they conduct a seasonal adjustment on this data. And the seasonal adjustment is simply because you have clear trends, mostly around the middle of the year and the end of the year, where unemployment numbers go up just because of filings from municipal workers who might work at schools who are allowed to file for unemployment in the summer, and then people being laid off after the holiday shopping season.
Yeah, you do this because, right, it would not make sense every December to declare a recession and cut interest rates because a bunch of people got laid off from holiday work. That would be a bad idea.
Yes.
Bad policy.
So the seasonally adjusted claims number, which is the one that everyone always talks about, was 233,000. This was better than the now revised 250,000 that we saw last week. It was previously at 249,000, so a 1,000 upward revision to last week. And also better than the 240,000 expected. The non-seasonally adjusted number, which they publish as well, they don't hide this and say, oh, like you can't know what this is, went from 216,000 the week before to 203,000 this week. And I want to focus on this non-seasonally adjusted number because ultimately that's the number that really matters.
True people filing for unemployment.
Because if you're actually going to see an increase in unemployment, the non-seasonally adjusted number, the raw number, is going to have to go up. It went down this week, which follows the same seasonal trend that we've seen in 2018, 2019, and 2023, really the last 3 years that there was a normal economy, because 2020 was all screwed
abnormal.
up.
Yep.
2021, still all screwed up. 2022,
on its way to being less screwed up.
On its way to being less screwed up, but still almost a borderline recession. And so if you're comparing it to normal years, you want to compare it to normal years where there was no recession or, significant, almost recession. We don't have a technical term for it. So this is following the same seasonal pattern that we've seen in the last 3 non-recessionary normal years of economic blah. And I think that when you look at this, few things to take from it. The first is there is no evidence in the weekly jobless claims numbers of any kind of mass layoff that's happening.
Agreed.
There's nothing there.
And you would expect to find it there. It's not as though there's a bunch of people that get laid off and say, I don't want that unemployment benefit. No, thank you.
No. There's some people who say that.
Very few.
But they're very few.
Yeah.
So this is, there's nothing doing here right now. Other things to take from this. It's one data point. And by the way, this data point was for August 3rd, which was the week of August 3rd, which basically was, all of those firings or all those filings would have been made pretty much before last Friday, August 2nd's jobs report. So we don't know if that jobs report may have influenced hiring and firing decisions since then.
Right. Yeah, the SOM rule indicator, right? Did that spook a bunch of employers who pulled down job postings?
Correct.
And
We don't know. It might have. There
idea.
might be a reflexive component to this. But this is the danger in looking at last Friday's jobs number and saying, hey, recession is coming, or today's number and saying, well, recession's definitely not happening. We don't know, and this all exists on a continuum where you're trying to figure out, hey, what's the probability of a recession? And it's pretty much never 100 until you're on the cusp of it, actually.
What's the best thing you can say about this jobless report?
That if you were having a meaningful recession, if you were having a recession,
you would have shown up here.
jobless claims numbers would be higher. Now, I want to talk about the market response to this and what markets have done the last couple of days as well. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, that's what we're going to touch on in terms of the data that we're getting and how markets are reacting to it. There's a story there that's important as well, and we'll cover it when we return.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Recent reports suggest that a record 4.1 million Americans may retire this year alone. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and if you're one of them, you'll want to have a retirement plan in place that focuses on several objectives. When to actually retire is a very important one to consider. Retiring early while giving you more time to enjoy life after work also means you'll need your money to last longer. Retiring later may not give you as much time to enjoy life's pleasures, but you'll have more time to save money. It's important for your retirement plan to strike a reasonable balance, and our new guide may help. It's called A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and it's yours free by calling 800-393-4001. The guide discusses these issues and more, so please call 800-393-4001. Once again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Summer in New England is spectacular. Winter in the U.S. Virgin Islands is even better. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity has soared over the past 3 years. If you're ready for your next fabulous vacation, now's the time to check out the American Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. The St. Croix Crucian Festival runs from December 26th to January 4th. Celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com. Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and creating a trust is a great way to help. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law. Their brand new guide out this month is called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. There are many types of trusts to consider, but irrevocable trusts can establish the kinds of safeguards you'll need to protect your assets long term. Learn about how the trust can protect your assets from probate and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. If you're closing in on retirement and have an existing trust that needs a second look, or if you need a new trust to ensure that your assets are secured, call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and let them help you create a plan that gives you confidence in your financial future. That number again is 866-848-5699, or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, so first segment, we talked a little bit about the jobless claims numbers that we got this morning. Good. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how markets have been behaving, because if there's one thing that will absolutely destroy you as an investor, it is getting whipsawed in markets like this, where yesterday is an example. The S&P 500 opens, runs up 90 points. You're like, great, it's time to get back in. It then falls 130 points from there and closes down 40.
It'll destroy you as an investor if you're trying to time it, and if you get drawn into that type of, I don't know, the psychological impact of those swings can be significant.
And then you might say, oh, gee, this was a mistake, and then you sell yesterday. And now today you're sitting here and you're like, oh, the S&P's up 80 points. Do I buy back in? Like, this is how you get destroyed as an investor, is getting whipsawed from day to day, trying to guess what the market's going to do.
When people say that the market is a forward-looking tool that helps sniff out things like recessions and earnings beats and fails, and it does some good things, right? We've talked about the positive impact sometimes of short investors who can sniff out a fraud or those types of things. What they're not referring to is markets that do things like they have over the last week. That might still be forward-looking, but they're not talking about the day-to-day swings on the overall S&P 500.
And at inflection points, markets often don't know what to do, which is what you're seeing right now. It has no idea what to do. And so it's just chopping around pretty heavily from day to day, and you can get absolutely just slammed trying to trade those markets if you don't know what you're doing. And by the way, the people that do know what they're doing, and I talk to a lot of these people, fund managers, traders, they're right 55 to 60% of the time.
If they're amazing at it.
If they're good.
Which means that they lose a ton of money 49 to 50% of the time.
The idea that you are going to pick up the Wall Street Journal or pick up the New York Times or watch Bloomberg or watch CNBC and beat these people who, A, have been doing it for their entire lives, and B, have tens of millions or in some cases billions of dollars supporting them to be able to do their jobs at the best of their ability, is quite honestly kind of foolish. And I'm not saying that none of you trying to do that will succeed, because some of you will, but it's a really small number who will end up doing it. And it's kind of like going to the casino. We all have a time that we've gone to a casino, like if you've been to one. We all have a time that we've gone and you're like, man, I got so hot at the blackjack table and I came away with, $500. Or, hey, we had a great run at craps and, we all ended up, paying for dinner and getting a hotel. It was great.
Yeah, I was 16 and
I was 4 years old and counting cards. We all have those stories about, that time that I went. But ultimately, the way that the casino gets you is you come back thinking that you're going to do that again, and you get cleaned out because all of the games are slightly tilted in the casino's favor, which is the exact same way that markets are, quite honestly. And it's not to say that you can't make money, but more, hey, if you do end up making money, you have to be able to identify whether it's because of luck and variance and, hey, that was just your day and it's time to get out of the casino, or if you have an actual edge. And here's how you know if you have an edge. If you go up to any stranger, and I wouldn't recommend doing this actually because they'll think you're weird, but if in your mind you can go up to a stranger and in 30 seconds or less explain what your edge is and how you make money in markets, then you have an edge. If you can actually do that. So and your edge can't be the guy on TikTok who said, I see the line going up and I buy it, and then when it starts going down, I sell it. That's not an edge. That's not an edge. That was 2021 where everything was basically moving up. So that's not edge. It has to be something where your strategy has to be more than that.
So let's assume that 99% of people don't have that edge? How do you go about riding the coattails?
Which coattails?
I don't know. The coattails that will make you money. Right?
Ultimately, the first thing is understanding your own risk tolerance. Like, what can I stomach and what can I not? Because when you are buying stocks, you're buying volatility. There is a really good chance you will lose money trading stocks, or even if you're buying stocks and not committed to them when they go down, you're going to get absolutely cleaned out at the exact wrong time.
I would argue that the biggest edge that the everyday investor has that they don't really consider to be an edge is that most of us have at least a 20-year time horizon.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge edge.
Right, even if you do the math out, if you look at, like, the statistical tables, and I hear this an awful lot from people in their 70s, they're like, you talk to them and you're like, hey, you got to think about the long term. They're like, oh, I don't have a long term. Statistically, if you get to age 70, you still have like a 17 or 18-year time horizon, because it's not like you just die at age 70 all the time. Like, that's not what a 72-year life expectancy means. That's from birth. Once you get to that age, your life expectancy is still longer. So I would argue, unless you're in like your late 70s, you generally still have to be considering long-term investing, even if you're, not feeling great today.
And that's the edge that you have. That's not an edge that every company executive has. That's not the edge that every pension or hedge fund manager has, because they get held to different standards. But you, an individual, like Chuck said, unless you're 80 years old, you might have, or you probably do have, at least a 20-year investment time horizon. And that is your edge. That is, to me, the big thing that, a even middle-aged retirement investor has with not all of their money, but some of their money is probably 20-plus year time horizon money. And that, in and of itself, at least historically, has been a huge edge if you're willing to take a look at it on those time horizons.
But understand your risk tolerance. Understand what your behavior is going to be like. If you see a 5% pullback in markets and you always sell out, it's probably not a good sign for your ability to invest in equities in the long run, because 5% pullbacks in markets happen in 94% of years. 94% of years they happen in the S&P 500. That's according to data from Callie Cox of Ritholtz Wealth.
It's a lot.
It's almost every year.
Almost all years.
Almost every year. The S&P 500 in various forms has been around for, I think, 95 years now.
Yeah.
That means that you've had them in like 89 of them.
Here's the other tricky part about, let's assume for a minute that this is not a good assumption, but let's assume for a minute that we're heading for a recession. Markets that are moving around like this too, like everyone thinks about the 2020 downturn because that one's most recent, but that was a really big rarity. Like, most of the time markets don't just head straight down 35%. You go take a look at other recessions, other bubbles popping, other downturns in markets, they are bumpy. The stuff that we're seeing right now is typical. In 2000, the dot-com bubble, you saw 4 rallies of 10% or more, all on their way down to an ultimate bottom.
Yes.
Stocks go down, they go up by 10%. Stocks go down again, they go up by 19%. Like, that happened so many times in almost every recession. And I don't know if we're in a recession now. I don't know if we're going to... Actually, I'm pretty sure we're not in a recession now. I don't know if we're going to head to one in the future. But this type of market volatility in any environment is typical. And even in a protracted or prolonged downturn, market rallies like we're seeing are also very common.
And the other piece, look, you could be completely right about what you think is going to happen with the economy. You could still invest completely wrong for it, because the market might not behave the way you think it will. There's so much that has to go right for you to actually be right in trading these kinds of markets. Not saying don't, I'm just saying buyer or seller beware. Quick break here. Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Celebrate National Farmers Market Week, August 4th through August 10th. This is the perfect time to visit your local farmers market and indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. From juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to fresh berries and more, your favorite seasonal produce awaits. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Together, let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled A Day in the Life of a Retiree. Mike, one of the key focuses of this piece is about how to figure out how much income you actually need in retirement and where you start tapping assets from. How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, don't you hate the rules of thumb on this, right? Like, oh, I'm going to need 80% of what I had before. The answer is that there is no rule of thumb. There's no good one that you can use to figure out how much income you are going to need in retirement. Do you have a mortgage? What sort of travel are you planning to do? Yes, you won't be commuting as much. Maybe you and your spouse can go down to one car, but if all of a sudden your plan is to dramatically increase your travel budget, that changes everything.
And when you look at other things that can matter, it could be, where's your family located? Are you planning on moving somewhere else? Do you have grandkids that you want to spoil? These are all things that are going to play into that discussion of how much money you need to retire on.
Yeah, no doubt. And so it really does start right there with assessing your retirement ability. It's what type of income am I going to need in order to just be happy. It's not necessarily about maintaining lifestyle. It might be a different lifestyle once you're retired, but will I be content with it? And what sort of activities and lifestyle am I looking for once I am done with that 9 to 5, once I'm done putting in the hours for working and saving for my future?
Our guide this month is titled A Day in the Life of a Retiree. The way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. Again, it's titled A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after yesterday's 180, markets today are in strong rally mode today as investors digest better than expected jobless claims data this morning. At the moment, the Dow is up by about 1.5% or 542 points. S&P 500 is up 1.75% or 90 points, and the Nasdaq is up now by over 2% or 326 points. Russell 2000 up by 1.5%. 10-year Treasury yield up by 3 basis points, just below 4%, and crude oil is up by about 1/3%, trading at $75.46 a barrel. Eli Lilly shares jumping by about 8% after the pharmaceutical company handily beat earnings and revenue expectations for the second quarter. The company also hiked its full-year revenue outlook by $3 billion as sales of its blockbuster diabetes drug Mounjaro and weight loss injection Zepbound spike. Meanwhile, shares in Warner Brothers Discovery down by 10% after the entertainment and media giant posted a quarterly loss totaling nearly $10 billion, mostly due to a write-down of its cable networks. Elsewhere, Robinhood posted a record revenue and profit that beat expectations for the second quarter. The online trading platform saw a boost in trading in the period with the return of Keith Gill or Roaring Kitty. That stock, however, down by 1%. Under Armour surging by 20% after the struggling athletic apparel maker posted a surprise profit of 1 cent per share, while its revenue of $1.18 billion also beat forecasts. And shares in online dating company Bumble are tanking by 35% after it cut its outlook for annual revenue growth, well off of street forecasts. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Doesn't it feel like that return of Roaring Kitty was years ago now, when really it was like 2 months?
Yeah, it feels dead.
I mean, it's just... But it doesn't even feel like it was this year.
Right.
Feels like it was ages ago. I mean, like beyond like the first one. Anyways, let's talk a little bit. We've talked about the jobs data from this morning. Do you want to talk about JPMorgan boosting their U.S. recession chance to 35% by the end of this year?
All I have to say about this, I think I saw a quote that Jamie Dimon of JPMorgan once again said something along the lines of recession is still on the horizon. And my question is, Jamie, where the hell is this horizon and why does it keep moving? This is not helpful information. It has not been helpful information for the last 3 years when you've been saying it. And I don't think it's going to become helpful information in the future. I know when he says things, it's to, in part, spark a reaction. I don't think he just says things to potentially be right in the future. But this has been not useful information for anybody out there that's trying to listen to it. And I've said things too, like, hey, I'm more worried about recession today anytime than I have been in the last few years, and that's true, but ultimately I've always taken a step back and be like, but ultimately I don't know, and I have no real idea, and we'll see where things go. And that's the piece that's kind of lacking from Jamie recently.
Jamie also saying that he is skeptical that the Fed will get inflation back to their 2% target, to which I say he's right. And he's not right because he's Jamie Dimon. He's not right because he knows something that anyone else does. He's right because inflation has never averaged 2%. If you look back at the data that we have, which dates back to 1914, it's a lot of data, and it includes some really deflationary periods, too. Did you know, Mike, did you know that in 1921, the CPI in June of that year was running negative 15%?
No. What in God's name was going? Is that the Spanish flu?
Maybe. Spanish flu. That was 18 to 20. It was probably mostly over by then.
Okay, no idea.
And during the 18 range, during Spanish flu, actually, it looks like inflation was like 18 to 20%. Let's get rid of kind of pre-World War II, though, because I don't really think that the world is similar. And honestly, what year was the Fed even created? Was it even around in World War I? 1913. Okay, so
yeah.
Fine, but they really didn't know what they were doing back then if they let inflation get to 20%. Again, it was World War I, so they didn't really let it. It just got there. Let's look at post-World War II, though, okay? And I'll even we'll even include, like, I'll exclude the hot period after World War II that ended in 1951. We'll start in 1952, just so that we're, looking at a good data set here. Since 1952, the CPI has averaged 3.51%. 3.51. You say, oh, like that's skewed by the 1980s. Fine, let's start in 1990. 1990 and on, CPI has averaged 2.71%. Mike, the point I'm trying to make, inflation has literally
never been to.
And I'm saying that in the right context. I'm not, a bachelor or bachelorette contestant saying it, the wrong way. Inflation has literally never averaged 2% over any extended period of time.
My problem, again, is that I don't think that's what Jamie Dimon means, because in his annual letter to shareholders this April, he said that JPMorgan is prepared for interest rates ranging from 2 to 8% or even more. Maybe he's just saying that, we can handle this type of thing and we're not worried about it. That might not be his projection, but that seems to be more than an acknowledgement of it not getting to 2 and more of a concern of it getting wildly out of control again.
The question that you have to ask yourself on the inflation piece is, what's the catalyst to drive it higher? Because it's not just, it could, prices could go higher. Here's just a simple thought experiment. If all of the companies that you buy your stuff from right now raised prices by 10%, would you continue to buy them in the same quantities that you do today? And the answer is a resounding no. And the reason why it's no is because you wouldn't be able to afford to do so. And so what ends up happening in the event that you see all companies try to raise prices 10%, just as an example, is some of them would be able to keep those pricing, that pricing. It's the stuff that you really need. Your electric bill, you say, okay, I got to pay this. Your grocery bill, you say, I got to pay this. The other stuff that's more discretionary, you say, I'm not really sure that I'm going to do that anymore. And so what do those companies do? They end up cutting prices because they have to maintain market share and maintain their business. And so they end up cutting prices, and that's why inflation historically doesn't run like 10% year over year. There's a demand side to it. The other piece, the supply side. Hey, if supplies go down, will people willingly pay more for stuff? Again, in some cases, yes. But remember, supply, demand, and expectations all work together. And that's why you don't normally see in the United States inflation just running at 8-9% for any extended period of time. It's not Argentina. It's not Turkey. It's different. And so if you're going to say, hey, I could see inflation moving higher, the question that you have to ask is, what is the catalyst for it to do so? The couple places that I potentially look, the energy situation is always something that you have to be wary of.
Yep.
And, tension in the Middle East, could that ratchet things up? And that feeds, into everything when you talk about the pricing of gas and fuel and stuff like that. That's one place that you look. On the demand side, though, hey, what is the catalyst for an expansion of demand in the United States that would, really drive lasting inflation?
The only one I can think of is stupid political decisions.
Right. Here you go. Okay, Kamala Harris wins the presidency and decides to enact, $1 trillion a year in additional spending. Probably would be something that drives some inflation. Donald Trump wins the presidency and decides to cut taxes by an additional $1 trillion, dollars a year, but no spending offsets.
Cut taxes, eliminate Social Security taxes, and raise tariffs.
You got inflation coming. Like, on either side, again, if those were the things that were to play out, I'm not saying that one candidate's better or not. I'm just saying, those are the kinds of things where if you either dramatically increased spending or dramatically cut taxes and didn't do anything to balance it out on the other side of the budget, both of those things right now, yeah, that would be a huge increase in demand at a time where you're still somewhat vulnerable to an inflationary shock, in my opinion.
Still not 8% in my view, but
I don't have a framework
I don't have a model
that allows me to
out,
predict what inflation would be, but those are the kinds of things where you'd say, yep, that could absolutely trigger it. So when we talk about where inflation goes, it always has to be, hey, what's the catalyst for it? It can't just be, well, I think it might happen. It's not really a framework. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, lost in all the kerfluffle over the last couple weeks. I was looking at this last night. second quarter earnings been really, really good. And it's something I was quite skeptical about. But, man, these companies...
making some money.
They're doing some work here. And so we'll talk about second quarter earnings and what we've seen so far after this.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Recent reports suggest that a record 4.1 million Americans may retire this year alone. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and if you're one of them, you'll want to have a retirement plan in place that focuses on several objectives. When to actually retire is a very important one to consider. Retiring early while giving you more time to enjoy life after work also means you'll need your money to last longer. Retiring later may not give you as much time to enjoy life's pleasures, but you'll have more time to save money. It's important for your retirement plan to strike a reasonable balance, and our new guide may help. It's called A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and it's yours free by calling 800-393-4001. The guide discusses these issues and more, so please call 800-393-4001. Once again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I'm a proud member of a military family, including my father, Victor, and my brother, Timmy. Serving my country was one of the greatest achievements of my life, and it's why I choose to give back to this special community. My father built Veterans Development Corporation, and I am honored to continue his legacy of working to help many disabled veterans and their families. It also gives me great pleasure to once again be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K Boston. I hope that by sharing my story, many other disabled veterans will be able to reach their goals once they conclude their service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and creating a trust is a great way to help. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law. Their brand new guide out this month is called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. There are many types of trusts to consider, but irrevocable trusts can establish the kinds of safeguards you'll need to protect your assets long term. Learn about how the trust can protect your assets from probate and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. If you're closing in on retirement and have an existing trust that needs a second look, or if you need a new trust to ensure that your assets are secured, call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and let them help you create a plan that gives you confidence in your financial future. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Are you retired like me, and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it, and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, so I was looking around yesterday, and FactSet, who is a data aggregator, they publish something every Friday called Earnings Insight. It's free. It's publicly available. If you just Google FactSet Earnings Insight, you can see the exact same thing that I'm looking at. It's no proprietary data or anything like that. But they basically take a bunch of data and say, hey, here's how stocks are doing, and here's what we're seeing from earnings. So this Earnings Insight report, I'll just quote from it. Q2 of 2024, the Q2 earnings that we've seen so far, 75% of S&P 500 companies have reported as of when this was live, and 78% of them have reported a positive earnings surprise, and 59 have reported a positive revenue surprise. Earnings growth, year over year, 11.5%, which is freaking ripping.
That's big.
It's hot. And on June 30th, heading into the end of the quarter, the estimate was 8.9%. Now, they revised those estimates down because they always want to beat, but it still is something where I look at that and I go, that's pretty darn good. Like, you're cooking there. For Q3, 39 S&P 500 companies have issued negative guidance. 35 have issued positive guidance. So it's slightly skewed to the negative, which is not a great sign for future quarters necessarily. And as a result, what we're seeing right now is that FactSet's projections, are not theirs, but analyst projections that they're aggregating, are for Q3 earnings growth of 6.1% and revenue of 4.9%. Q4 earnings growth projected to be 16.1% and revenue of 5.4%. I'm still not sure how we're going to get 16 in Q4, but we'll see. I remain skeptical on that. But the point that I will make is ultimately, earnings determine how expensive companies are because really we value and we judge companies based on price to earnings is one of the key multiples that we tend to look at in the industry. And if you continue to, have double-digit earnings growth, it allows this market to grow into its current valuation. And I'm not saying that you will have it, but golly gee willikers, it's been a really impressive quarter so far.
Yeah, I mean, important to understand this is backward looking, obviously, and I don't know, the message that I keep hearing from politicians, CEOs, and just the general population is we're sick of these high prices and we want them to be discounted. And there's not many ways that you can discount pricing and grow earnings. There are a few layoffs. Cost cutting, but there's not many ways you can continue to grow overall earnings at 11% year over year while cutting prices. And so those two things are kind of by nature in conflict. I mean, NVIDIA or AMD or some of these other companies that don't sell things to the general consumer might not be the same thing, and I recognize that. But those two things are kind of by nature in conflict, and we'll have to see how they develop over the next year.
So that's what we're seeing on the earnings side of things at the moment. And as Mike said, we'll see if that continues.
Summer in New England is spectacular, but winter in the U.S. Virgin Islands is even better. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity has soared over the past 3 years. If you're ready for your next fabulous vacation, now's the time to check out the American Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com where you'll find all the information you'll need to book a trip that you'll never forget. The St. Croix Crucian Festival runs from December 26th to January 4th. Celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean Paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Lyft, the ride-sharing company, reported earnings yesterday and had their quarterly conference call with their CEO, and there wasn't anything hugely notable about the earnings. It's not like it's a bellwether for the U.S. economy or anything like that.
Did they stock's up 7% today, so I'm assuming they did fairly well like Uber did?
Yeah, they did fine.
Mm-hmm.
I do... Occasionally you get a nice quote from a CEO here, and I'll quote from TechCrunch.
Is this Bobby Boucher is the CEO?
Who's the coach from the Waterboy? What's his name?
Henry Winkler?
No, but his actual
I know.
his name in the movie.
Coach Klein.
Coach Klein, there we go. Quote, ride-hail giant Lyft will pilot a new feature called Price Lock that will let a rider purchase a monthly subscription that caps the price for a specific route at a specific time. So I guess this is if you're like going to and from the office and you need that every day, you could do that. I'm not really sure the other scenarios where you would want to, unless you like always go to dinner at the same place and have a couple too many and want a ride to pick you up like on Friday night, like whatever, you know?
Sure. I'm sure there's a lot of New York City commuters who do rely on an Uber most days to get to work.
Sure.
And don't want to take the bus or whatever it is. I don't know.
The feature is designed to address the inconsistencies of surge pricing. Wow, this sounds great, particularly for commuters who use the Lyft app every day. It's part of Lyft's broader plan to, quote, open up a can of whoop-ass on prime time, said Risher. What? That Risher being their CEO. Like, it's reading along nicely, and then you're like, open up a can of whoop-ass on prime time? What are we doing here? And how did Deion Sanders get involved in this?
Yeah, I don't know which marketing. Clearly, like, the CEO was told to say this. And
did he transport himself from 1996?
I don't know. I don't love it. It seems gimmicky. And by the way, I mean, what tiny fraction of people use Lyft for this specific purpose that they're going to be able to actually combat surge pricing in this manner? I genuinely don't know, but the only time I ever use Uber and Lyft is when I'm going to or from the airport. And so I would imagine I'm not the only one there that does not feel this is going to open a can of whoop-ass on surge pricing.
Honestly, so I'd use them for that purpose. And the other one that I do is what I mentioned, which, hey, if I'm going out with a couple buddies and I know I'm going to have more than like a drink,
sure,
I'll basically say, yep, I'm going to Uber because it's cheaper than a DUI. And like generally safer also.
Can we not focus on the price of the the dollar price of the DUI?
The point is I'm making a responsible decision, you know,
but you seem to be focused on the responsible financial decision here, Chuck.
It's the financial exchange, man. I'm playing to the audience. Forgive me. If it was the health exchange, I'd talk up the benefits of not drinking, but what are you going to do? Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we've got more financial exchange right after this.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Summer in New England is spectacular. Winter in the U.S. Virgin Islands is even better. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity has soared over the past 3 years. If you're ready for your next fabulous vacation, now's the time to check out the American Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. The St. Croix Crucian Festival runs from December 26th to January 4th. Celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free, because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
This is Tucker Silva with the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about how Medicaid irrevocable trusts operate. Now, Todd, it takes 5 years to protect your assets from the cost of long-term care. If you aren't sure you or your spouse will make the 5 years before going into a nursing home, should you even bother to do your estate planning?
The answer is absolutely yes, you should bother. And here's why, folks. There's people who maybe don't even start their planning until they're 80. It doesn't mean just because you're 80, you don't try, you don't plan, right? 85, you plan. You don't know whether you're going to get sick or not get sick. But by the same token, when you're 65 and you're doing your planning, you also might not make it past the 5 years. So just because you might not make it past the 5 years is not a reason to get this clock started. For example, lots of times when we put assets in the trust, we leave lots of assets outside the trust, especially IRA assets. So let's say you made it 3 years, but you had $200,000 in an IRA outside the trust. If I got $1 million worth of assets in the trust, I'm happy to spend $200,000 of my IRA to get past the remaining 2 years to get me protected from the nursing home with the $1 million that went in there. So getting the clock started is always better than not having the clock started.
Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and find out if they can help yours too. Request this brand new guide called Unlocking the Power of Medicaid Irrevocable Trust. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
If you're getting close to retirement, you've likely thought about how you'll spend all of your free time. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and with no more 40-hour work weeks or hour-long commutes on your agenda, you might find yourself on the links in Florida or traveling the world with your spouse and family. The financial pieces of the retirement puzzle are important. Having a specific plan about how you want to live day-to-day in your post-professional life is just as important, and our new guide called A Day in the Life of a Retiree may help. You can get it today by calling 800-393-4001. In the guide, we're going to discuss how to connect your financial needs in retirement to where and how you'll be living. Call us again at 800-393-4001 and get your free copy today. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org, CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, kicking off the second hour of our show. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 556 points right now. The S&P is up 97 pointeroonies. And the NASDAQ up 359 at the moment. So you've got a broad-based rally taking place today. We'll see if it holds up better than yesterday morning's broad-based rally, which promptly fell flat on its face for the entire afternoon.
Sure did.
And ended with the S&P 500 down 40 points, which disappointed anyone who wanted the rally to continue. Bonds today, the 10-year Treasury up 2.3 basis points to 3.991%. Basically back to where it was before that slow jobs report last Friday, so we round-tripped that one pretty quickly. We've got oil today. It is up 86 cents a barrel to 76.09. AAA national average for gas prices is down another 0.4 cents to 3.45 5/10. So that's very exciting to be able to save 0.4 of a gallon on 0.4 of a dollar per gallon.
There we go.
On gas.
Yep.
0.4 of a cent.
Yeah.
Not 0.4 of a dollar. That'd be 40 cents. That would be very exciting, actually. But gas prices moving down just a touch. But with this reversal in oil, probably going to be somewhat short-lived, and I imagine we'll hang out in that 345 to 350 range where we've been for quite a while now. Gold is up $20.80 an ounce to $24.53 20 cents. And that is what's moving in major markets right now. Mike, one of the stories that we've covered for the last 6 to 8 weeks has been on earnings calls, companies in the leisure and travel space reporting some slowdowns in bookings. Whether you're talking about airlines now saying that they have too much capacity, whether it's Disney saying they expect parks to slow down a little bit, whether it's Airbnb saying that they're seeing a slowdown. Across the board, we're starting to get a sense that revenge travel, which had nothing to do with going somewhere just to hurt another person, but actually was much more, hey, I couldn't travel for a while and now I want to, that might be finally breaking on the leisure side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, there are very few areas, whether it's high-priced items or even a lot of low-priced items, that aren't seeing this sort of pushback from consumers. So the latest, as you mentioned, Disney pointed to their parks bookings as being down and potentially an issue in the future. But many, Delta, American, Southwest, all saying, hey, we are facing a little bit of a downtick in terms of demand right now. And I would imagine you're seeing it hotels and everywhere else too. And at first, I think where I was first hearing about this was the McDonald's, right? The McDonald's story, the Walmart story, Target, all saying, hey, we're getting pushback from consumers on all these price increases, and we're starting to slow it down. And a few ways to read into that, but one of them was, okay, look, cash-strapped consumers who are largely on the lower income scale, let's call it the bottom half of the income scale, are feeling strapped here and are having a tough time keeping up. When you talk about, it's not to say that people at the bottom half of the income spectrum don't go to Disney World. That's not my point. But, when you talk about repeat customers of Disney that go every year are pulling back, that's a different customer by nature. When you talk about Delta Airline customers, that's a different customer. And they too are now starting to pull back from some of that discretionary stuff. And again, nobody has any sort of model out there to say, oh, yeah, when Delta and Disney report bad earnings, watch out because that means recession. But if we're actually seeing a prolonged pullback of discretionary spending, there's a few places where it seems to be showing up right now.
And I think one other thing just that I want to touch on here is the fact that, you can go through when we talk about this in the context of a potential recession, it's something where ultimately you can go through what we would characterize as a growth slowdown pretty consistently without necessarily heading into recession. And just a little bit of data on this to contextualize here. Does everyone listening remember 2011?
I do.
I was 4. And it was a joke.
Got it.
Okay.
I wasn't. Everyone always is like, oh, like that young guy, so I was making myself younger. Forget about it.
Okay.
2011. Do you guys remember the concern about the double dip recession?
I do. Market sank.
Everyone was talking about like, oh, we're heading for a double dip recession.
And remember 2000. I know you get far away from things and you start to forget, but 2011 was rough.
The unemployment rate was still north of 7%.
Housing market was a disaster.
You still had all kinds of foreclosures that banks were sitting on trying to unload. Like, things were bad then.
I remember what sticks with me about 2011, and sorry, I know I'm going off track here, but 2011, I remember going out and looking at condos, real estate, and half of what I was looking at was bank owned. You had entire, I'm looking at like Cambridge and Somerville and Medford, these towns today where it's almost inconceivable.
Our listeners from Oregon have no idea what you just said.
No, they don't. But you go look at these places and, 5-unit condos, 3-unit condos, and all 3 of them are owned by different banks. Like, that was what we were dealing with across the nation. And Massachusetts was probably one of the lesser impacted states out there. So if you live elsewhere, it was even worse.
But here's what you saw. In Q3 of 2010, GDP growth over the previous GDP growth in that quarter was 3.3%. It then decelerated by Q3 of 2011 to 0.94%. But the United States did not go into a recession. It was a significant growth slowdown, but we pulled ourselves out of it. In 2015, Q1 GDP growth was 3.9%, cooking, like feeling hot. By Q2 of 2016, we were at 1.49% for GDP growth. These are growth slowdowns that did not imminently lead to recession. Will we see a similar thing here? Don't know, but there are times where the economy slows, and just because it's slowing does not mean that you are heading into recession. Now, there are other times where you very clearly do go into recession, 2001, 2008. These are, very clearly, remembered recessions as well, but it's kind of impossible to know which one you're heading into until you're right on the cusp of it. Because the really bad stuff in a recession, the spike in unemployment and things like that doesn't start usually until the recession is already somewhat underway. And so it's, you can talk about, the Somme rule or this and that, and Remember 2 years ago when everyone got excited about the yield curve inverting and then
nothing happened?
It's been 2 years now and you still haven't had an officially declared recession. So, again, you can go through all these different things, but ultimately, sometimes a growth slowdown is just a growth slowdown, and sometimes it develops into something more that's much worse.
So discounts on Disney World coming? Do they ever have discounts on Disney World?
Honestly, haven't been to Disney in quite a while, like 25 years.
You're getting to the age, man.
Kids aren't old enough. No, give it like 5 years.
We're thinking like 2 years.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I had
see my excitement.
I had the same attitude both of you did. 2 days Disneyland. That's my prescription. 2 days only.
Why am I going to fly to California for 2 days? It's a lot of time change and flying for 2 days.
Well, you can go stay in California for a longer period of time. That's what we did. We were seeing family in California.
Okay.
And we spent 2 days only at Disneyland, which you can do and still see the majority of Disneyland. You cannot do that at Disney World.
Is there, someone's got to have a comprehensive report on the differences between Disneyland and Disney World,
Chuck,
right?
There is an entire...
Is it an Animal Kingdom?
It's not even a corner of the internet. There is an entire, room of the internet solely dedicated to people's expertise on all the different Disney parks and how to run it. And you probably know 4 or 5 people that are major contributors to that part of the internet. So just ask around. You'll get the answers you need.
Do you think I know... I know 2 people. I have a good buddy of mine who's, again, I don't understand it, but everyone's got their thing.
Yep.
Goes to Disney twice a year.
Yep.
Every year. Did it even when he didn't have kids.
I didn't know the Disney people in my life until I had kids and they got to Disney age, and then it became apparent that I knew Disney people that I weren't aware of prior to. So ask them if you will get any discounts on Disney, because it could be a good time to book.
What do you call someone? What's the official term for the cousin of the sister of your wife? I guess it's the cousin of my wife also then.
Say it again.
Is that a cousin-in-law?
Yeah, let's go cousin-in-law.
Or is that like a cousin? Is that
his
second
wife's
cousin?
His wife's cousin.
Yeah, cousin-in-law. Sure.
Is it cousin once removed?
It's cousin-in-law.
I think it might be cousin once removed, but maybe that's something else. I think that's when your great uncle had a kid that then had your cousin. Maybe that's a second cousin. I always get it confused which one's which. But I have one of those that's into Disney also.
Got it.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Corey Adams from Robert Half about employers and their hiring plans for the rest of 2024. We're also going to do a little bit of trivia, too.
Tune in for Trivia, brought to you by Applebee's. Every day at 11:20 for your chance to win cool prizes. Text us at 617-362-1385 and use keyword Applebee's. Complete rules are available at financialexchangeshow.com. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and creating a trust is a great way to help. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law. Their brand new guide out this month is called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. There are many types of trust to consider, but irrevocable trusts can establish the kinds of safeguards you'll need to protect your assets long term. Learn about how the trust can protect your assets from probate and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. If you're closing in on retirement and have an existing trust that needs a second look, or if you need a new trust to ensure that your assets are secured, call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and let them help you create a plan that gives you confidence in your financial future. That number again is 866-848-5699, or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Recent reports suggest that a record 4.1 million Americans may retire this year alone. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and if you're one of them, you'll want to have a retirement plan in place that focuses on several objectives. When to actually retire is a very important one to consider. Retiring early while giving you more time to enjoy life after work also means you'll need your money to last longer. Retiring later may not give you as much time to enjoy life's pleasures, but you'll have more time to save money. It's important for your retirement plan to strike a reasonable balance, and our new guide may help. It's called A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and it's yours free by calling 800-393-4001. The guide discusses these issues and more, so please call 800-393-4001. Once again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands of St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John enjoy perfect weather, world-class dining, incredible beaches, and a vibrant nightlife. Head to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. No passports needed, and there's no money to exchange. Take your next vacation in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com.
Corey Adams from staffing firm Robert Half joins us now. Talk a little bit about their most recent survey on companies looking to add positions in the second half of the year. Corey, good timing here. I'm sure you are getting questions from all sorts worried about the state of the labor market, and to reiterate, that SOM rule got triggered on Friday of last week with the most recent unemployment report. But jobless claims this morning looking pretty solid and markets rallying. What are you? We'll get to the survey in a minute, but I mean, what are you hearing from your major employers looking to staff up at this point in time?
So this sort of addressed the survey, but the survey basically says that companies are saying they plan to hire about 52% in the back half of this year. 43% are focused on filling vacated roles. So you've got two sides of this, right? The survey that we did in June, and I know we'll get to this, is from June, and a lot's happened since then. And I think the best way I've described it, to your point about getting all kinds of questions, is it's just slow. The entire year, the theme of 2024 has been stagnant. It's been slow. And the JOLTS report, as we know, just came out. The job openings dropped to 8.1 million. And so to me, what we're hearing, but what that number suggests to me is that basically the labor market is in fact slow. It's slowing. We can call it normalizing or stabilizing, but to me, it suggests that it's slowing, and that's being driven by weak hiring and not so much from layoffs.
Over the last 18 months, in particular, people will frequently look at temp workers as an example, or contract workers and layoffs in that space specifically, or lack of hiring in that space specifically as a potential recession indicator. And if I'm not mistaken, that's been slowing for a while here. But to your point, you're right. We're not seeing layoffs. I mean, do you attribute to that to something weird with COVID? What do you attribute to this slowdown in temporary help, but a lack of actual layoffs. There seems to be a real hesitation on the part of employers to lay off their full-timers here.
So it's interesting. The contract piece, and I'll give you some data on this because I think it's important. Give a bit of context here. So the data, the research that we did in June shows that companies plan to continue to leverage contract workers like you just stated. And so it goes on to say that 57% of companies plan to increase the number of contract professionals, but that is down about 10% from the beginning of this year. And the why, my opinion, a lot of the contract work that you see, particularly in the market like the one that we've been in, it really has to do with projects. And projects have been put on hold for a large portion of this year. They'll continue most likely to be put on hold. And if they're not being put on hold, some potentially will be in the next few months. And so typically when you have projects and they resume or they're initiated, most companies look to bring in contract workers because it allows you to augment your staff. And it also alleviates burnout, which we know we've been talking about for a large portion of 2024. The other piece of it, too, is sometimes, and everyone knows this, it's just easier to engage with a contract worker than to go through a whole process of interviewing, sourcing, screening, hiring, onboarding. And sometimes a contract and contract to hire professional gives you a chance to kind of try before you buy, if you will. And it comes with a little bit less risk than going through the whole process of a permanent hire.
Corey, I see in particular that hiring plans in tech are substantially off compared to your last survey. Where else are you seeing weakness?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the trend that we've seen a lot. Tech has got hit pretty hard. You're also seeing it within marketing and the creative space as well. The admin support space in finance is actually held fairly well, all things considered, but tech, marketing, and creative are the ones that you're seeing the biggest impact. And that's been sort of trickling through most of this year, but you're definitely seeing it in the past quarter or so.
It's Corey Adams from staffing firm Robert Half joining us to talk about their most recent survey on the state of labor, in particular contract hiring at the moment. Corey, I get the sense we're going to want to talk to you a lot over the next few months here as a lot of questions get raised about the labor market. So appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you're busy, and thank you very much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Mike. Look forward to it. See you.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and it's brought to you by Applebee's. Take your friends or family to any area Applebee's and enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including boneless wings, spinach and artichoke dip, and warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. And don't forget to join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood, void where prohibited, dine in only. Continuing our 80s trivia theme here on the show. In 1988, NBC had the 4 highest-rated primetime shows, according to Nielsen. The Cosby Show, A Different World, Cheers, and this sitcom about 4 older women sharing a home in Miami. Trivia question today, what was the name of the sitcom about 4 older women living together in Miami? Once again, what was the name of the sitcom about 4 older women living together in Miami? Be the 10th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You can win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card tomorrow, 617-362-1385, and the 10th correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
You're right, Tucker. That is about the easiest it's been in a while.
Pretty easy.
Yep.
What was the question?
I'm not going to say it. Yeah.
I think I heard it.
Okay.
Well, I did, but then I got to researching the Employment Diffusion Index, and
what did that say?
As one does.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the Employment Diffusion Index. It's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, and what it measures is very simple. What percentage of industries surveyed by the BLS are adding jobs versus not? What percentage are hiring? And generally, during like the 2010 through 2020 expansion, you saw between 55 and 70% of industries that were hiring. That diffusion index just dipped below 50 in the most recent jobs report to 49.6. The last time that we saw that was 2020, which doesn't count because it went to a reading of 5, which was bad. As a comparison, even in 2008, the worst it got was a reading of around 20. But it is something where, hey, it can mean some things, but also it triggered once in 2004, and there was no recession in 2004.
No.
Quick break here. When we come back, we got the trivia answer and more.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
Celebrate National Farmers Market Week, August 4th through August 10th. This is the perfect time to visit your local farmers market and indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. From juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to fresh berries and more, your favorite seasonal produce awaits. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide out this month titled A Day in the Life of a Retiree. The big focus of this guide is about figuring out what you actually want to do with your time in retirement, not just the financial piece, but how are you going to spend your days? How does someone go about figuring that out, Mike, or starting to figure it out?
Yeah, Chuck, I love this piece because it is a lot different than our normal course of what we put together from the Armstrong Advisory Group. And what I tell people frequently, one, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your retirement. I have no idea. But the most successful retirees, and by successful, I mean the most content in retirement, who are not stressed about money, are those who have really thought through a coherent plan of not just what I don't want to do in retirement, i.e. work, but what I want to accomplish and do when I'm done working.
It seems to me that it really has to be something where you say, I'm retiring to do this, not retiring from doing that more than anything else.
And often that's the focus because, look, for a lot of us, work is extremely stressful. We've been supporting families for decades, and the allure of not having to do that, not having to pull in that paycheck anymore is really tempting. But I'm here to say that I've looked at a lot of this from a lot of different people in all sorts of different industries, and the most successful ones are the ones that are retiring because they're passionate about something that they want to do that they finally have time for.
Our guide is titled A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, the guide is A Day in the Life of a Retiree, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play the Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, what was the name of the sitcom about four older women living together in Miami? That's, of course, The Golden Girls. That ran on NBC from 85 to 92 and won several awards, including Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Comedy Series twice. Bob from North Falmouth was our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt, and is also registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's, which we'll give away tomorrow. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. and join Club Applebee's. To enjoy exclusive deals and specials, you'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only.
All right, so I can't remember if it was last year. No, it was 2 years ago that Bloomberg brought us the piece, hey, if you're feeling the pinch of inflation, let your pet die.
Yeah, I remember.
That was the gist of it.
The thrust of the article, if you will. Yeah.
Literally, not much of an exaggeration.
No.
It was basically, hey, if you're feeling the pinch from inflation and you have high pet medical bills, maybe you should forgo that treatment on your pet.
It's pretty sad. Yeah.
Pretty sad.
Yeah.
Today, the Wall Street Journal gives us its companion piece, The Silver Lining of a Slowing Economy, Cheaper Gas. Hey, don't worry if there's a recession. You might have lost your job, but at least gas will be cheap. I mean, what are we doing here?
That is the worst silver lining. Like, guess what? I don't need gas if I don't have a job to commute to. So This is not important to me.
Hey, in a recession, traffic goes way down. Okay, the recession still sucks.
Ready for cheap housing? You're going to get it because a bunch of people are going to go through foreclosure. No, that's not what we're hoping for.
So, yes, in a recession, the cost of many things drops a little bit at first, or many commodities drops. You don't usually see the drop in non-commodity prices, but commodities tend to kind of go into free fall during recessions because they're commoditized. So that's kind of a circular logic.
Gas is a weird one where, I mean, we've talked about this before, how gas prices are so front and center to Americans' lives that they really view it as a healthy or unhealthy part of the economy. But I'll tell you, like, high gas prices, mostly, again, there can be spots where it's high for other reasons, but mostly it's a sign of a really healthy economy. When gas prices start cratering, it's because our economy is falling apart, or the world economy is falling apart. And we're not cratering right now. We're holding steady, but we're kind of holding at pretty low levels in spite of obviously massive Middle East turmoil and other concerns that are out there. And I think a lot of that is plain and simple because of demand concerns in the United States and China.
Yeah, if you go and look at the last, when's this going back to? I've got data going back to 1993. So I got 30 years of data here. Let's look at kind of 2005 and onward, because basically in the 90s we always had cheap gas. It was like $1 a gallon for basically the whole thing. In 2005 and onward, here are the times when we had the cheapest gas. February 2009, good economy or bad?
About as bad as it's ever been.
March of 16, good economy or bad? Good, but concerns. Good. Remember, this was when Russia flooded the market with gas in order to basically drive U.S. producers out of business.
Right, out of show, yeah.
And then it was also August of 15 was when China did its surprise devaluation and was exporting basically all kinds of economic slowdown to the rest of the world. So it was good economy, but slowing in February 16. Other times when we had really cheap gas. May of 2020. Not really the best economy.
The best, yeah. Negative
Those
oil.
3 times are the only times in the last 15 years that you have seen the national price of gas under $2 a gallon. and they were bad times. Other than that, if you're looking, again, I'm looking from 2005 on. Other than that, if you look at the average price of gas during this time, and this is data from, let me see where this is coming from. I think it's the Census Bureau. The average price of gas over the last 18 years is $3 a gallon. And we've basically hovered anywhere between, most of the time, $2.50 and $3.50 a gallon.
On inflation adjustment, gas is really cheap.
Look, it is what it is. Do I love it at like $3.50? Like, no, like I'd prefer it to be closer to that $3 a gallon range. But the other thing that I always come back to on gas is imagine a world where gas doesn't exist. And how much would you pay in order to get from point A to point B carrying the stuff that you're carrying? Like, what would you have to do in order to do that?
Steamship down the Mississippi. Yeah.
That's not how I would get to work, you know.
I actually found a record of a family member from a very distant, like, third cousin that went to Hawaii in the late 1800s via train and then steamship.
They took a steamship.
Connecticut to Hawaii.
Wait, so they took a steamship through the Pacific Ocean?
Yeah.
Honestly, I gotta say,
our ancestors were so much more badass than us.
They really were. Like, we're sitting here and we're like, the cost of gas is too high. And they're like, hey, let's hop on this sailboat across the freaking Atlantic Ocean for 3 months.
Yeah, different times.
You know, like, hey, you know, gosh, you know, these semiconductors have gotten awfully expensive. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take a covered wagon across the entire country. Oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
What road are you going to take? No roads, because they don't exist yet.
We don't need roads where we're going.
How are you going to get across the rivers? The rivers? We'll caulk the wagons and float them. What about the mountains? Chains. But there's no roads. Chains.
Yeah.
Oh, well, inflation's a little high.
Yeah.
Chains.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Can't really compare.
Yeah, they
were a lot better.
They were a lot tougher than us.
Folks, I want to talk to you about a new guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group. It's not that I'm not excited about other guides, but this one is distinctly different from the typical guide that we're putting out, which, you know, oftentimes we're getting into pretty technical areas of tax rates that you can expect when you retire, or Roth conversion scenarios, or Social Security numbers that are important and you have to look at. But this is much more of a guide targeted towards lifestyle choices for retirees. And we're coming at it from the perspective of having worked with a lot of people who, in hindsight, clearly didn't really know what they wanted out of retirement. And, you know, for most people, what they want out of retirement is to not be working anymore. But I think for a lot of us, we don't spend enough time on this genuinely what should be a fun part of retirement planning, right? It's not about the Social Security figures. It's not about the numbers. It's about what you are trying to get out of retirement and what you'll need to think about financially to get there. And so this brand new guide is available from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Like I mentioned, it's a little bit different from our typical one where we're really focused on those numbers and getting into the weeds. But this one's really for anybody that is on that cusp, that's thinking about retirement sometime in the next decade and trying to evaluate what life might look like and help you prioritize the items in your life. The new guide, it's called A Day in the Life of a Retiree. It's our guide for the month of August, and it's available by calling us at 800-393-4001. Again, brand new guide this month, all about lifestyle choices in retirement and what it's going to take to fund those and what to prioritize once you get there. It's a pretty organized way of thinking about things, a little bit different from our typical one. And like I said, brand new for the month of August. So call to get yours. The number 800-393-4001. I'm going to give that one more time. It's 1-800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Boeing has a new CEO who is taking over today. Tucker, can we get a little fanfare? Like some...
No, you just did it. We're good.
Okay, we're good. So I guess that a new Boeing CEO doesn't deserve fanfare, but you've got Kelly Ortberg, who is taking over today and has some work cut out for him to turn around a company that right now has 2 astronauts stranded in space for maybe up to a year.
And a space agency that doesn't want to use their
Well, how long were they supposed to
get
be
there?
They were supposed to be there for 5 days.
Okay. So something happened. Yeah.
Again,
So what's happened here is NASA has lost...
how are they going to do laundry? I still don't know. Like, they didn't pack for a year.
I mean, NASA, I feel like, is probably prepared for the possibility of having to spend a lot of time in space.
I think they've thought of that.
I don't think there's
they've
much
considered
like
it.
available space on the International Space Station.
Okay, so you go commando for, half a year. You figure it out. Learn a lot more about your fellow astronaut than you thought you did. So
Can I just read
clear
this story first? We have to cover that.
of them being stranded in space.
Yes.
The reason we're talking about 2025 now, by the way, is because that's how long it's going to take before SpaceX would be able to basically rescue these people, because NASA doesn't have confidence in the Boeing rocket. They have not officially made this decision, by the way, but go ahead.
If it's being published, it's
I
being
recognize
published
that.
for a reason. NASA officials and Boeing have been debating whether Starliner is safe enough for the astronauts to return to Earth. While Boeing has vouched for the craft, NASA officials said Wednesday they're working on backup plans that depend on SpaceX. The possibility that NASA would call on Musk's space company to close out the mission Boeing has been working on for years in recent weeks has increased. NASA managers are considering having SpaceX launch one of its crew vehicles to the ISS in September with at least 2 open seats, leaders from the agency said. That would leave room for Barry Wilmore and Sunita Williams, the astronauts Boeing flew to the ISS about 2 months ago, to potentially return with SpaceX. However, it's unclear if they're going to be able to do that, and so they might have to stay there until February of 2025, when the next SpaceX vehicle is scheduled to make its return trip with 4 crew members on board. I mean, look, I'm someone, I'd love to go to space. If someone offered me a free, all-expenses-paid trip to the International Space Station, I'd go.
On a Boeing rocket?
Honestly, no. But do I want to spend 8 months up there?
No.
No.
Also no.
No, I'm good with it. I think I'd probably be good with a day, maybe 2. You know, there's not that many not a lot of space to walk around. You do a bunch of orbits during that time, so you get to see a lot of different stuff.
Is anybody else just thinking of The Martian over and over again? I know this is not the same situation, but stranded in space, my mind immediately goes to Matt Damon.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It kind of makes The Martian seem a little bit more unrealistic when we can't even get down from the International Space Station. It's been 2 months.
Ah, boy. Boeing just continues to fall in their face. So this is what you inherit, Kelly. Good luck.
So Kelly Ortberg taking over Boeing. This is the least of his problems.
True.
You know,
yeah, quite honestly.
But Boeing's business is not built on sending people to the International Space Station or to the moon or
they're
anywhere
hoping maybe it
outside
will
of
be, but
Earth. It's, hey, we got to get people safely from point A to point B on Earth, and there have been questions about our ability to do that the last 5 years. Can you clean up our mess? We don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not going to prejudge him. I'm not going to say he can or can't, but we're going to have to see, and it's an uphill climb. Quick break here. We got Stack Roulette coming up next.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Summer in New England is spectacular. Winter in the U.S. Virgin Islands is even better. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity has soared over the past 3 years. If you're ready for your next fabulous vacation, now's the time to check out the American Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. The St. Croix Crucian Festival runs from December 26th to January 4th. Celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit dav5k.boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange has built an incredible partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We can't wait to take part in this year's DAV 5K, set for Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island, and registration's now open. You can help our great American heroes by walking, running, or simply making a donation. Your gifts will support services such as the Veteran Advancement Program, which offers permanent and affordable housing opportunities for veterans and their dependents. Learn more at dav5k.boston. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Michael, what do you have for me for Stack Roulette?
I want to talk about Social Security, not because either of the candidates running for president are talking about fixing it, but instead we're talking about making the problem worse. Donald Trump has been campaigning recently on the idea that seniors should not pay tax on Social Security. And up until 1984, they didn't. Under the Reagan administration, a bipartisan bill was passed to shore up Social Security and allowed for the taxation of up to 85% of Social Security benefits, depending on how much you make in other income. If you want to make the problem with the Social Security Trust Fund even worse than it already is, then you should do this. If you want to make the Social Security Trust Fund run out of money to pay everyone's Social Security benefits even faster than 8 years from now, then this is what you should do. Beyond all this, it again is not a tax cut for anyone that's making less than, what's the dollar amount? Maybe like $40,000 a year in income. So if you're in that bottom income spectrum on Social Security, you're probably not paying any taxes on your Social Security benefits anyway. So we're talking about a tax cut largely for folks that are making, I'm not going to say very upper income amounts, but more than $40,000, $50,000 a year. And again, the taxation on these benefits goes into the trust fund. You will deplete this fund faster. Why are we so stupid about our Social Security benefits? I don't understand this. I don't understand why we can't actually talk intelligently about these government programs that are going belly up within a decade.
Yeah, it's going to be something where, look, we have anywhere between 8 and 10 years before mandatory adjustments kick in for Social Security.
By the way, I'm okay with not paying, seniors not paying taxes on Social Security, but you can't just propose this with no other fix to the program.
There's got to be
this
a fix.
This is so irresponsible.
There's got to be a fix either on the revenue side or how are you adjusting benefits, in terms of age and this and that, because otherwise it does exacerbate the problem.
By the way, Reagan is the one that passed, that signed the bill that started taxing Social Security benefits. This isn't a partisan issue, folks.
Right. Reagan was like, hey, the program's broken. How are we going to fix this? Okay, we're going to adjust benefit ages. We're going to raise taxes. He did what he had to do. And ultimately, that's what we're going to have to do again because demographics have worsened since then. So that's kind of where we stand on that. I want to talk a little bit about this piece from Bloomberg here. It's titled, Why Are Americans So Willing to Move to Disaster Zones? And it is something that's kind of interesting when you look at the migration habits of the last couple years in terms of, hey, where have people been moving to and moving out of? And you've seen a ton of people, most notably, moving into Florida. What you're starting to see this year, what I suspect because we don't have the full year data yet,
sure,
but based on the housing listings that we're seeing in Florida and how they've rocketed up this year compared to previous years, you're likely not seeing the same level of net migration in, and in fact, you might be starting to see a little bit of a reversal there because two things that are kind of intertwined. The first is, hey, if you haven't been paying attention, Florida's had all kinds of problems with flooding this year on a number of different occasions in different parts of the state. And as part of that, as well as the fact that Florida is the homeowners insurance fraud capital of the world, or at least of the
US,
country.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Florida has 7% of the homes in the United States, but 77% of the homeowners insurance claims, and a large number of those are fraudulent in many cases. It has become prohibitively expensive to insure your property in Florida, and so you're seeing some real problems there. But it's been fascinating to watch, people kind of flocking to areas that tend to get hit by natural disasters more than others in recent years. Let's take a quick break for the entire rest of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow, though, to finish up the week. We'll see you then.